For 25 years, running from 1999, we identified what was wrong with Nigeria in some detail, in fact, in great detail. What had to be done to rework it to functionality. And in the first 20 years that culminated in that force majeure proclamation of December 16, 2020, it was to get all the victims of unitary Nigeria, whether they were Ijaw crying about their resources, or they were thieves being slaughtered in their ancestral spaces, or they were Yoruba lamenting the collapse of their society from the progress that Awolowo took them to, or the Igbo that had now become like the hostage of the rest of Nigeria for advancing to nowhere. There are maps you will see to explain to you all of what this terrible constitutional arrangement represent. That there was a conquest agenda initiated from Britain, recruiting the caliphate, expanded in 1967 by way of the alliance that now brought the renegade elements from the southwest of Nigeria and from the coastal east to isolate the Igbo. Nigeria then imposed a constitution to keep things the way they had organized, away from what was agreed as a basis of union, a federation. So Nigeria moved away from being a federation and imposed this unitary arrangement that has taken everybody's sovereignty, codifying it in 1975 at the instruction of Murtala Mohammed into what became the 1979 constitution, which Olusegun Obasanjo processed for them on behalf of that alliance of 1967, alliance of the caliphate and the renegade wing of the southwest. And so that was how we landed into this disaster of unitarism that took away the federation and replaced it by this total dysfunction in which the economy is in distress, the security is in tatters, and everything has gone as bad as they can go. And so it is in that sense that NINAS will actually declare a celebration of the delegitimization, mark my words, delegitimization of that constitution. And there are many of us who might be thinking that the constitution is that booklet that is painted green, white and green. No, the constitution goes far deeper than that. The constitution is actually the union as codified, or what you might call the union agreement, if there was an agreement. And if there wasn't, like we have now, the union as dictated, the union as unilaterally defined, that's what we have now. The union as framed, that's what we have now, unilaterally by those who have created the master-servant society we have now. And they have taken our sovereignty hostage. And when I say sovereignty, it is your land and your rights to manage your affairs in that land, your ancestral land, and your ultimate right to decide for yourself how you live in that land. That is what makes up the sovereignty we're talking about. So Yoruba sovereignty is that Yoruba could be a country of their own, a country of 60 million people if Nigeria were to collapse today. It will be the country of their own with all their lands and waters belonging to them. The only thing that is standing between them and the ownership stroke control of their lands and their affairs is that unitary Nigeria, not federal Nigeria. Federal Nigeria recognizes them as the owners of their lands and the owners of their assets and the owners of the rights to work those assets to their own benefit. And that's what a federation is. As it is for them, so it is for the rest of the nationalities. The Igbo, the Ijaw, the Thief, everybody owning their own lands, their economic assets, but cooperating in a wider union that is called the Federation of Nigeria. But things went wrong in 1966 and the Federation of Nigeria collapsed. Then these same captors of state, these same invaders, aided by Britain, hijacked the carcass of that dead federation and began to do things by decree, in which they pretended that Nigeria was still in place as discussed. They dismantled the 4 regions that were federated and generally fractured everything into first 12 states and then 19 and then 20. Like that, we now have 36 states that were not mandated by the owners of the lands. 36 states that were created just by the brigandage of who had hijacked, like seizing a ship in which we are all sailing, like pirates would do. So we are trapped in that ship. Today that ship is sinking. That ship is called Nigeria. That ship is sinking and we are all trapped in it. But the crew, the ones who are supposed to be our own servants, the people in government, they are not listening to, they are not about to listen to anybody. They've hijacked the ship. They are going in their own own direction, for their own destination. Meanwhile, the entire ship is sinking, and they are drunk in the cabin crew. Why will people be crying and shouting that our ship is sinking? Let us stop. Let us go to the harbor of constitutional reconstruction, which is what has acquired the street name of restructuring. And so what NINAS did was to, in those 20 years leading to December of 2020, from 1999, what NINAS did was to go around to the victims of that unitary Nigeria, because everybody is now a victim of that monster that is feeding on the blood of its captives. Otherwise, tell me which part of Nigeria people are rejoicing. Their lives, they are full of security, they are full of everything good. No, Ijaw is crying, Yoruba is crying, Ogoni is dying, Middle Belt is being beheaded, everybody, Igbo is trying to run away to Finland, and all of that. And so something is wrong with the entire project, the entire union, the entire Nigeria as you know it. And why we are speaking to you today is that we have isolated the source of that problem. We have isolated that monster, which is that constitutional arrangement. We have also isolated the enforcers of that unitary Nigeria, which is those who imposed it and those who joined in enforcing it. And who are those who imposed it? The British and their caliphate, their Fulani friends. Who are those who joined to enforce? The ones from the rest of Nigeria, that is southern Nigeria, middle belt of Nigeria, who are contesting elections, who belong to political parties that subscribe to this constitution that already defines everything. They are holding hands with that enemy that seized our sovereignty. And in that seizure of sovereignty, we are slaves in this union to those who impose that constitution and who are enforcing it against us. The governors, the senators, the House of Rep members, the ministers, and all of those who swear to defend and uphold this Constitution 99 are the ones enforcing. And so they are together with the ones who imposed it. And if you want to know what they get from it, go and check what they gather to share every month in Abuja in trillions, whereas the owners cannot find food. What are they doing with that money when they share it? They go and buy dollar. It belongs to them because that constitution renders them unaccountable to you. That constitution gives them the spare key to the treasury. That constitution lists 68 items that the owners of the sovereignty, that's the federating units, cannot touch. And so my security is in the hands of these people who are out to eliminate me and take my land. My infrastructure is in their hand. The question of who will govern me is exclusively in their hand. All those 68 items they put in that exclusive list, it is a victory charter against all of us that they codified in 1979 and carried forward in 1999 with renegades from all the sides holding hands with them to swear to defend and uphold that instrument. Of course, they have to pretend it's a democracy to the rest of the world, and so elections, what they call elections, are staged. Look back and tell us on one occasion your vote had decided who became president. We had, what's the name of the one that rigged Jonathan's election? Jega. We had them acknowledge publicly that Jonathan did not lose the election. We saw the one in which Mahmoud Yakubu, the one that did the one of 2023 that coronated this interregnum we have now. No election was won. And so even at the level of the sub-national, that is the states, and whoever will be senator, and whoever will be house member, whoever will be governor, it is not you deciding, it is those who sit in Abuja doing INEC. They process the candidates so they can process for you choices that will be boiled down to the devil and the blue sea. If the only 2-3 candidates they process for you, you've seen what's going on in Benin now. That a governor, PDP had raised the alarm at the time that this fellow is illiterate. They shouted from the rooftops. He has emerged governor. He was presenting budget, was it yesterday? In December of 2024. A governor of a state in Nigeria could not read the figures on the paper that was written for him to read out in the parliament of his Edo state. He wobbled and wobbled, just 605 billion. He doesn't know where billion ends and where million sits. A governor. And eventually said, well, as you find it there, that is what I have, please approve, let me go. That's how low we have vigilated. Could it have been the decision of the Edo people to elect somebody who cannot read one page of paper to be their governor in the midst of the choices that were there to be made? It boils down to INEC, it boils down to exclusive lists, it boils down to Abuja deciding for all of us. The case of Imo is still outstanding, in which somebody who was rejected roundly in an election, turned by Supreme Court Court of Nigeria to become the governor. And look at the carnage that's been going on there. And so, as you can see in this clockwork, we'll take you through. There are 4 periods here, and we go from this one that looks like 12 on the face of the clock. Was a point in 2020 that the consensus had been built against that constitution and against the enforcers of that constitution. The consensus of the victims, that's the peoples of Nigeria, to say this constitution is directly responsible for all the calamities befalling us, all the woes of Nigeria, whether it was insecurity or it was corruption or impunity or the decay in infrastructure or the hopelessness of the economy. Everything is flowing from that constitution. And so we had mobilized everybody into realizing that. And so together we came in 2020 December to say that we declare an emergency, we declare a dispute on that subject, and that we are going to do whatever it will take to take down that constitution, to go into another anarchy. Therefore we said, let those in government house remain so we can go into a transition to rework the damaged constitutional basis of the Union of Nigeria. That's all we set out to do, and we are glad to report today that the entire country is in one accord. There's a countrywide consensus against that constitution. The constitution is an inanimate object. Who are the human operators? Again, we began to explain to them that the one who has a name that looks like your own, like Bola Tinubu may sound like Yoruba to Yoruba people today. There was an Obasanjo that had a similar Yoruba name. There was a Jonathan yesterday that had an Ijaw name. And there is a Peter Obi that could have become president if the result of the election of 2023 was properly managed. He will have a name that sounds Igbo, that is Igbo. But on the 29th of May, in the year of election, he will be swearing to defend and uphold that constitution. And that is the beginning and the end of your damnation. But that is what now invests him with power to go and do what this enemy has dictated into that constitution. So you will still have the false claim against you that in that preamble that says, we the peoples of Nigeria, that's we the Yoruba, we the Ijaw, we the Igbo, we the Tiv, we the Berom, have solemnly and firmly resolved to live in unity forever. That falsehood will remain there, meaning that your sovereignty will remain in the hands of those who hijacked it by the instrumentality of that constitution since 1967. There's no progress. You've heard it from everybody. You heard it from Emeka Anyaoku the other day, that even if Angel Michael or Gabriel is brought to come to manage Nigeria under this constitution, it will fail. You had Dele Farotimi shouting from the rooftop the other time that even if you bring 1,000 Dele Farotimis and hand Nigeria to them to manage under this constitution, that they will fail woefully. You had Kingsley Moghalu saying that the economy that is in free fall is on account of the wrong constitutional arrangement. You can't build an economy on the damaged constitutional foundation. It is what you see now that you continue to see. Who else needs to speak? Dixon Serake, that is in the Senate, he was governor in Bayelsa. He has seen all the sides of it. He was in the uniform services. He's been in the executive branch. Today is in the legislative branch. He's saying that we are living in a fraud. So how else is it to be explained to these people who have hijacked the ship of state, the ones hanging around in Abuja and the ones who come to join them every month to share, the blood of the people, because that's what they are sharing in the name of allocation. Because that money is not meant for anything for you. That money, by virtue of that constitution, is theirs to spend as they deem fit, and they have immunity. You can't question them. They have the spare key to the treasury to take by the appropriation provisions. We've explained these things 1 million times. We don't have a democracy, because democracy that is government of the people, by the people, for the people, it means only one thing. Government of the people means that the people dictate the ultimate rules, which is what you call the constitution. The rule book is determined just like a memo and articles of a company. It is the owners of the company that have the exclusive right to make their memo and article. For a country, it is the constituent components, the peoples of the country, that could have been countries of their own, but for the Union of Nigeria, that have the exclusive right to make a constitution, to negotiate, commit to the union, negotiate what the terms of that union will be, and codify among themselves how their union will be operated. That is what you call the constitution. Those are the things, the false claims in that preamble that say we the people, that means the constituent components, the nationalities, in the formations of their choice, because it's their land they are submitting into a union that will be managed by now a government they will appoint later. So they were never invited to discuss, they never agreed on anything, they never wrote any constitution, and all the things that make them who they are, all their lands and their economic assets, all their rights to work those lands are seized by that falsehood. It was their decision to submit their land to be managed on the terms contained in that document, and that they were the ones who wrote down those terms in terms of so that is what we have to resolve. That is what NINAS has spent the last 25 years to get everybody to see that that falsehood cannot remain the basis of union. Anybody who is doing economic reform, the choice to build on a non-existent foundation is a choice to crash. Nigeria is heading for a crash. That reform you are doing is of no interest to those whose economic assets have been hijacked since 1967 for over 55 years. You sit in Abuja like a robbery gang holding on to stolen assets and pointing guns at everybody, because it's also that same constitution that gave them the gun. I was talking about democracy as government of the people. That is, that the people make the ultimate rules. That is what government of the people means. By the people means that it is by the vote of the people that those who will manage that power selected every 4 years. In Nigeria, that has never been the case, and it cannot be the case under this constitution. If you want to find out some more, go and ask Peter Obi whether he did not get more votes. Did your vote coronate him president? No. Why? That constitution makes it impossible for your vote to coronate anybody president or governor or senator. Then the third leg, for the people, means that whoever is going to wield power will be doing so for the benefit of the people. Why will it be for their benefit? Because the people decided the contents of the constitution from the first day. If you are not the one that decided the rules, what you have now is what you are going to get. They structured the rules in the manner to exclude you. That's why you are miserable, poor, hungry. And then you have people with education. The Nigerian Bar Association with all the lawyers floating around inside it. The labor unions. Why are you not talking about this hijack that makes democracy impossible? There's no rule of law that can come from that kind of constitution of impunity. Again, I refer to Dele Farotimi that had constantly defined that constitution as one guarded by impunity. That's it is sitting on the foundation of impunity. So you can't have the rule of law. You can't have any security, because the guns are taken from you and handed to people who are determined to kill, like robbers owning the exclusive right to control gun in your neighborhood. You can't even defend yourself against them. So Fulani can come from Mauritania or Senegal, wherever they come from, and come to your community in southern Kaduna or in Berom area in Jos and kill you and take your land. The ones in uniform are of them. Commander-in-chief can be Bola Tinubu, but why has the invasion not stopped since he became president? This is the second year. And so the purpose of this broadcast is to let us know that from that point of building that consensus, we launched out in the period that followed to get more people to understand and to join in saying that we cannot continue like this. We cannot continue to build a democracy on a non-existent constitution, because it cannot be democracy. We have achieved that completely. Then from the period that followed, we are talking about what has happened in the last 4 years, because we are moving into a new phase. First, we are going to celebrate the demise of the 1999 constitution. If anybody is still stupid enough to think that the document is still standing, when everybody from everywhere is saying that the document is the source of the problem, we didn't make it, and we're going to do away with it, such a person can remain in his hallucinations. But the majority, the overwhelming majority of the peoples of Nigeria, high and low, including the government that was looking for how to write another constitution through the back door. You saw them when Benjamin Kanu said he was going to write another one and give us in 24 months. You saw when the patriots came to say, oh, make a draft. We say no, that before we begin to write down anything at all, there are 2 steps that must be observed. You must identify those who are going to federate, and in the formations of their choice, you must identify the Yoruba that is now fed up with Nigeria, waving Odua nation flag. You must identify the Jodi Igbo and the formations they choose to relate in. And then it is in identifying them in that delineation that you now come to the second step of getting them to sit down and negotiate. They did not negotiate in 1914 when the British imposed Nigeria on them. The little negotiation that happened in Lancaster House was toppled in 1966. By 1967, it was replaced completely by something that has never been referred back to them to this date. It has been decree after decree after decree. You saw Gowon the other day, still alive at 90, but unwilling to speak the truth about what they did. Obasanjo is still there, but the other day he went to Port Harcourt to say the peoples of Nigeria must now go and sit down and work out their constitution. Why can't Obasanjo be the one? Because he's the one that turned us into this mess more than everybody else. In 1979, from Murtala Mohammed that commissioned Rotimi Williams and Ben Wabese in 1975. Why can't Obasanjo be the one telling the whole country that we can't go to another election under this constitution? He came out to say Peter Obi will come and do it. Then we had to challenge him. Go and check Guardian newspaper of the 6th of January in 2023 to see what we told him about loading a vehicle without engine. That was what he was doing with Peter Obi that will come and now repair Nigeria. Will Peter Obi become constitution? If Peter Obi becomes president, will that preamble not remain there? If Peter Obi becomes president, will 36 states not remain there? 704 local government areas, that brings us to 812 governments that we have to finance every month. And people are asking where the high cost of governance came from. Say you do a Rosalie report, you reduce a vehicle of convoy, and all kinds of nonsense. Why are we financing 812 governments? What is local government doing inside the constitution? And then you have a Supreme Court that will bypass the constitution to say local government autonomy. What does it mean? Who agreed to have 774 local government areas in a federation? Who did you discuss 3 tiers of government with? Why have the governors not developed their states? And so, in these last 4 years, we have secured the consensus against that constitution countrywide. We have secured the consensus against the enforcers of that constitution. That is all the political parties that seek to govern Nigeria with that constitution, including the ones who have not won elections yet, the ones who have sworn, and the ones who are planning to swear, because when they win, they will swear. So NINAS is by these brokers announcing to us that going forward, because there's another period of renewal, that's another election that might happen in 2027 if the victims of unitary Nigeria remain in their sleep. And so NINAS is not going to, NINAS will do whatever it will take because of the number of people who have died from the operation of that constitution. All the hunger you see now, all the deprivation you see now, all the failures of every system you see. You've seen the one of the justice system. What about the police system? What about the electoral system? What about every system you can imagine? The governance system. All of them are in disarray on account of that constitution. And so NINAS is saying we have endured it sufficiently. 25 years is long enough. When we were saying let us stop and repair before we proceed to election in 2023, many people didn't understand it. But look at what has happened across the last 1 year and a half to them, because they went to that election. The men of God in the land and all the people who are supposed to be watching out for the people who do not know, all of them were eager to get their own people to become president. Our kinsman will be president. Oh, it is Igbo talk. Where are we now? If we choose to proceed to that 2027 election under this constitution, it is a choice to perish, and it is a choice of stupid people. It is a choice of stupid people. But when the suffering will come, because if you think you are suffering now, what you are going through now is a child's play. If we do not terminate the operation of that constitution sooner than later, we are not saying chase out the people in government house. NINAS is still willing to accommodate in a transition all of those who are in the governance structure of now. Let those in government house, whether they won election or they didn't, remain in a transitional capacity through that period of transition, like South Africa did to ease itself out of the apartheid bind in 1990. It took them 5 years. They ended in 1994 with the election that brought Mandela. It is this same problem we are trying to solve now that South Africa solved. Apartheid came in 1910. Nigeria happened in 1914. The Boers imposing a constitution that rendered the black slaves in their land. In case of Nigeria, the British and their Fulani friends imposing Nigeria that excluded the owners of the land from any meaningful thing. And now, by 1999, they have codified the first, the second, third time, and that's what they got to build their democracy on. Is it working for anybody now? It's not working. It's not. Everybody is saying it is not working. What then shall we do? To go to another election that will renew the life of that constitution in 2027? That will be a stupid decision. That will be a decision to build on a damaged foundation. And there's only one outcome possible. That edifice will crash. That edifice will crash. That Nigeria you're building on the foundation of a constitution that is damaged, the constitution that does not exist, will crash. And we're not saying it will happen by accident. The person speaking with you as a part of a majority that that reject that constitution are going to do whatever it will take to crash that constitution. Those who are sitting in Abuja and thinking that they become the owners of our sovereignty, you better dress back, because right from this 4th anniversary, from the 16th day of December in 2024, NINAS will proceed with the mobilization to rally the victims of unitary Nigeria countrywide against the enforcers of unitary Nigeria. I repeat, NINAS will now rally the victims of unitary Nigeria, that is the peoples of Nigeria whose sovereignty have been hijacked by that constitution, against those who are holding on to that constitution as basis of union. 25 years is sufficient in terms of pleading and begging and generally trying to persuade. Now the boxing ring, the venue for that fight is whether we proceed to election in 2027 under that constitution or we go to transition. Those who want to salvage their own people from this bondage will stand with us in saying transition in place of election. Let us go and repair this ship before we all sink with it. Those who want to hold hands with the enemy to continue to suck the blood of the people will say, oh, let us go to election and build our democracy further. It is a choice that we have all to make, but NINAS will lead those who reject that constitution, who then say they cannot go to another election under it because it will only renew their bondage, and who insist on immediate transition or the dissolution of the stupid union. The union is dead if we can't define the terms of that union. If anybody imagines that it is guns that will be used to camp and clamp, be informed that guns are useless in this discussion. It is that constitution that put the guns where they are now. The collapse of that constitution means that everybody can take what that constitution took from them, including their sovereignty, including their economic access, including the guns to defend themselves in their place. We do not have a union under this bad arrangement. You heard it from Professor Anthony Akinwale. You heard it from Kingsley Moghalu. You heard it from Ayo Adebanjo many times. We do not have a union under this fraud of 1999. I think a word should be enough for the wise. We stop here.